Bismillah, wassalatu wassalam, rasulullah, wa ba'd. In the name of Allah, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon his last and final messenger as to what follows. Family, friends, foes, haters, and hateettes, welcome back to the Feachaz. I greet you all in peace and love with no hatred in my heart. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon all of you. Now, before I begin, please like, please subscribe, please share. As you know, we got a lot of haters up in here. Now, before I begin, I just wanted to quickly touch up on a subject that has come up. Okay, I was not planning on talking about this. It has nothing to do with the subject at hand. But the reason why I'm bringing it up is to show you that essentially what we're doing here, it matters, to the wider community, because this channel right here, I don't think there's anything like it in the Muslim spaces, to be honest. And a few months ago we put out the video. We're talking about a former brother, Musa Serentino. Okay. And the brother Abu Amr Afriki, he's the one who brought it to my attention, and he showed me some stuff, and I was like, well, this definitely deserves to be put out there. We put it out. We got a heck of a lot of backlash, right, for putting it out. And even though that these documents, anybody can go and see them, right? So it's not like we're hiding it. They're out there in the open. Anybody can go check them. And anyways, you can check the video if you want for further details. I don't want to make this particular video about that subject, right? However, I noticed the last day or so that my channel has been blowing up from the Musa Serentino video. I didn't know what was going on. And apparently he came out and he just said, I'm not Muslim, I'm an atheist, right? So what we want is, of course, we don't like to hear these type of things, but we want the people to understand that the religion in itself is been under attack like never before, like than any other time that I've ever seen personally. And a lot of the wounds in the Muslim community are, in fact, self-inflicted. Okay, because of the way that we act and the way that we portray ourselves. And this particular person, Musa Serentino, I can't remember his real name. He was thrust into the Muslim sphere very quickly because of his whiteness and his Australian accent. So he got promoted very quickly on Peace TV, and not even like so many years later, he went from that to being straight up ISIS supported now to an atheist. You see, so we play ourselves. We're the ones who play ourselves because all this nonsense that we do on the social media, which I'm going to tie into the Black experience, and basically tie that into fasting in Ramadan. Because when we see Ramadan coming from a Black convert reality, or a Black convert, like a type of like lifestyle, most of us, we might have some family members who are Muslim, but there are a lot of us, for example, because our family members are not, practicing Ramadan, we're pretty much left to ourselves, right? Left to our own devices and whatnot. And unless you're in an actual Muslim country, you don't really get to see how it's done culturally. You understand? There's no type of Black culture when it comes to Islam in the West. So we're mostly running on our own devices here. So we listen to some lectures, listen to some du'at, to some scholars on the virtues of Ramadan and the sunnah of Ramadan and these type of things. And the thing that is missing is like a Ramadan that's specific and relevant for us out here in the West as Black folk. Because other people groups will get welcomed, right? They will get welcomed. like Musa Serentino, warm welcome, blue eyed white dude, whatever, warm welcomes, But us, we're pretty much left with ourselves. And when I was coming up as a Muslim in the early days, I used to look forward to the experience of going to the masjid, particularly in Toronto, because particularly in the early days, it was like more of you kind of saw the Muslims as your family. You understand? We were like we were really like practicing Islam like brothers and sisters. We didn't really care where you were from, or and we would be always inviting each other to each other's homes, converts, born Muslims. It didn't make a difference. But all of that has kind of switched and changed, and I don't know if it was just me, but I'm seeing that it's changed and switched to a different dynamic altogether, where you find the cultural Muslim community, they're more with themselves, and the Black Muslim community, they're more with themselves, and this is the dynamic I see today. You understand? And the brotherhood is kind of it's disappeared. It's not really there. So for a Black convert now, because he's not practicing Islam with his family, the only people he can practice Ramadan with are the other Muslims, and he's a Black convert sees the other Muslims as their family, their actual family. And when that line has been kind of like drawn in the sand, where we're gonna treat you a little bit differently now, so what are we supposed to do now? You understand? So I just kind of came up with some points from my experience and how we as Black converts we can deal with Ramadan and the stresses that come with Ramadan. Now I seen recently a bunch of posts going around. Ramadan is not about losing weight. It's about losing bad deeds, things of this nature, right? It's not about weight loss or fitness. It's the fasting isn't about fitness and these type of things. It's about gaining taqwa, right? That might be relevant for other people groups, all right? But for Black folk, we don't need that kind of advice, all right? To be honest, right? The way that we see fasting, we can't see fasting the way that other cultural groups see fasting. You understand? Because they have their culture, they have their ways of doing things. We can't see fasting the same way that they see it. Otherwise, we're going to be following in their mistakes when it comes to Ramadan and fasting. And one of the things that we shouldn't be saying is that in my opinion, for Black folk, you can disagree with you if you want, but for Black folk, we shouldn't be saying that fasting isn't about weight loss, right? Why? Because for us, sorry, I'm just playing with my hair. For us, one of the things, the number one killer of Black folk, more than anything else, is their food. More than anything else, the number one killer of Black folk are food-related diseases. And when we see fasting a lot like from the bad habits of our Eastern brothers and sisters as a type of starvation. And there's a difference between fasting and starvation. They're not the same thing. You're not going to starve if you're fasting, okay? You're not going to die. All right? It's impossible to die from fasting. Okay? Fasting and starvation are two completely different things. So from the bad habits of our Eastern brothers is that they gorge themselves with food, and we learn that, and then we start gorging ourselves with food. Where in the Prophet ﷺ, he would eat a light suhoor, very light, maybe some dates and some water, and then he would fast, and then he would have his dinner, during the iftar time, right? The supper time when the sun goes down, like a regular type dinner, right? So there's actually hikmah and wisdom in this, right? If you look at the type of, if you just look at dates, for example, I'm not saying necessarily you have to eat dates, right? But if you look at dates, like the makeup of dates, right? It is very fibrous, and it has a lot of glucose in it. So something that is fibrous and is naturally fibrous and has glucose at the same time will essentially take longer to release that glucose and use it as energy. Therefore, it will maintain your energy throughout the day, right? But there's another thing as well that is particular to this type of fasting, is that eventually, when that lights, when you used up that glucose throughout the day, then your body naturally will goes into your fat stores once your glucose is all used up, and then you go into a state which is called ketosis. Okay, that's where you get that fasting breath, and particularly in the beginning of the month, right? You get to go into a state with ketosis where your body starts using the fat stores for energy, which is a more natural way for the human body to use energy, is use their fat stores. The reason why we in the West, we don't rarely, you find people rarely going into a ketogenic state, is because of the food that we eat. It's readily available. And what we find is that, particularly in iftar, we eat all the things that are completely, we shouldn't be eating, right? Like sugary foods, like salty foods. If you eat salty foods, you're going to, get yourself really thirsty, right? So you find people that are eating, chicken and like the heavy type foods with salt and sodium in the morning for sahur, or I'm sorry, for sahur, and then they're incredibly thirsty by the time iftar reaches. And in Canada, and this time, well, where I'm at, anyways, the days are long for fasting, right? So anybody who is telling you that Ramadan's not about losing weight. Well, okay, yes, we agree that Ramadan is not about losing weight, and it's not about fitness. Okay, we can agree in principle, but Black people don't need to be hearing that, because there are many things that we need to be fasting from, and one of those things is the types of food that we're eating. As we said before on this particular channel, um, 3 out of 4 Black women are obese. 3 out of 4. There's a hadith. Actually, let me just get this hadith for you so you can see I'm not making this up. Okay, let me show you this hadith. Actually, 1 second. Okay, let me just find it first, and I'm going to show you this hadith. Right, it has nothing specifically to do with Ramadan, but if you look at the Black experience, any Black person can relate to this. Right, so let me just find it. 1 second. 1 second, y'all. There we go. 1 second here. Okay. Okay, this is in Sahih Bukhari, actually, right? When I read this, the first time I read this hadith, I must have been like in my teens, and I was like, or my early 20s, and I was like totally stunned, because I thought the Prophet ﷺ was talking about the people in our time, right? So, anyways, you know that hadith, khayrakum qarni, khayrum qarni, like this is the hadith, right? Khayrun nas qarni or khayrukum qarni. This is the hadith. So but Imran bin Hussein said, the Prophet ﷺ said, the best of you people are my generation. Okay. ثم الذين يعلونهم. Okay, then the generation after them. ثم الذين يعلونهم. Then the generation after them. And Imran added, I do not remember if he mentioned 2 or 3 generations after that generation. He added, this is the part. Okay. So most of us, if you're Salafi, you already know this hadith, right? But this is the part that most people don't quote. And this part, in my opinion, is just as important as the beginning part. Okay. But anyways, then there will be some people who will make vows but will not fulfill them. And they will be dishonest and will not be trustworthy. And they will give their witness without being asked to give their witness. And fatness will appear among them. I repeat, and fatness will appear among them. And if you can see the hadith in Arabic, it's fihum semen, fihim semen, like what you call it. Among them will be fatness. Y'all hearing me? This is an actual hadith in Sahih Bukhari. Now tell me that this is not talking about like our time. It gotta be talking about our time, right? You see what I'm saying? So in Ramadan, when you look at human behavior, it takes approximately 20 days, right? Or even 20 hours, you can even say 20 hours, but 20 days anyways, to develop a habit. If you do something consistently for 20 days, then you can actually actively develop a habit, right? As long as you do that action for 20 days. Or the opposite, right? If you don't do something for 20 days, you can quit a habit. You understand? So Ramadan is about approximately 30 days. If you wanted to quit a certain type of food that you're eating, if we're just talking about food, there's no better time to do it than in Ramadan. Okay? If you wanted to quit sugars, if you wanted to quit your ice cream habit, your cheesecake, whatever it is, eating cereal, you know your food addictions. Mind you, food in our time is not food for the sake of nourishing your body. Food in our time is based upon profit. So a lot of your food companies, particularly with the processed food companies, they'll put ingredients in those food to make you addicted to that particular food. Like sugar. Sugar is a neurotoxin. Like whatchamacallit? MSG. MSG is a neurotoxin. It's a type of neurotoxin. And when you eat sugary foods, what it does is it stimulates your pleasure sensors in your brain, dopamine, and then you just want to eat more of it and more of it and more of it, like a drug. You understand? So Ramadan is a time that you can take advantage of to get rid of that, because when you're talking about building taqwa, so that you can learn taqwa, when you think about the things related to taqwa, you don't think about things concerning mostly your heart, but you're thinking about things concerning actions mostly. You understand? And eating good food is directly related to having spiritual and mental health. Both. Eating good food is directly related to having good spiritual and good mental health. You feel me? And the discipline of not eating or drinking during the day, what it does is it actually not only cleanses your body from toxins, but it also cleanses your brain. You know when some people they fast, they start getting these headaches. You know why they're getting those headaches? They're getting those headaches because of a reaction concerning insulin. Okay, so now they're having, because the most sensitive organ in the body to sugar, it just happens to be the human brain. Okay, and then the pancreas. Okay, so they're having sensitivity to not having sugar, and the brain now is releasing a headache response. You understand? All of this affects you mentally and spiritually. It all does. So these headaches are actually a good thing, because once you get over, those first initial days of getting those headaches, if you stay away from sugars, eventually those headaches will go away. You get it? So that's why some advice might be good for other people groups, right? But it's not necessarily good for us. We should be looking very closely at the food that we're eating, particularly in Ramadan, because there's no better time to do it. And as a matter of fact, since we are ordered not to eat or drink during the days, all right, then what better time is it to fix your diet than Ramadan? You get it? You get it? We know we have diet problems. Okay, we know we do. Okay, yeah, yeah. Feel me? Not only that, but Ramadan is a time of fasting, correct? In the Black community, there are things that we need to fast from just as much, even not even more than food. And the number one thing would be, in my opinion, like, or one of the top things is social media. 100%. And alhamdulillah, we have a Ramadan where we're ordered to read Quran and these type of things, you know? So what that will do is just like junk food, like we were mentioning about the food, how the responses to your body to food essentially affects you mentally and spiritually. The same time, the response that your brain has to certain things that you read and consume, it's the same type of thing. It's the same type of thing. If you eat, a lot of junk food and whatnot, and then you find yourself being lethargic in Ramadan and having headaches and these type of things, it's because of the type of food that you're eating. That's why you're experiencing that illness, that type of illness. Likewise, why do you think Allah needs to keep you hungry for? Allah's not just trying to make you hungry. Allah's trying to make you better. So if you're fasting from food and water during the day, the more, even just as important than consuming food and water is the type of information that you consume. And if you consume a bunch of junk information, like, you can tell the type of information people consume by the way that they talk and the way that they react to people. If they're always consistently in an emotional response zone, like everything to them has to be an emotional response, a quick response, a quick answer without no thought process whatsoever. What all they do is consume social media. They don't read books. You know what I mean? So now stop consuming social media and start reading books. Take that opportunity. All of this is related to your spirituality. You understand? If you look at the Sahaba, when was Ramadan revealed? It was revealed in Medina, right? And at that time, at the time of the Prophet, and the Sahaba, it was just a bunch of new Muslims because the Ansar, were around, and they never had to fast before. They weren't ordered to fast before, and the longest surah that was revealed at that time was Baqarah, right? It wasn't Ali or Imran or any of that, Surah Maryam, any of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it's a bunch of new Muslims, a whole bunch of new Muslims who are experiencing fasting for the first time. Okay, and Allah is telling them, we've ordered fasting for you so you may learn taqwa. And they had Ali Imran, right? Some small surahs, right? So they didn't have the whole Quran for sure, right? And yet we, as new Muslims, as new Black Muslims, we think that we are going to go to some Pakistani or Somali masjid for 30 days in a row praying Taraweeh behind the Imam in order to practice Ramadan and stuff. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, the way that we're thinking about Ramadan is it's a cultural type process. It's not the process of actually building taqwa, especially in our own environment. It's not geared for us. It's something that somebody else was doing, and then we try to superimpose that on our reality, and that's why we get stressed, because these people have been doing this thing, a part of their culture, for hundreds of years. We just got this Islam. It makes no sense to pick up somebody else's culture and practice Islam the way that they're doing it, particularly in the West. And if you go to a Muslim country, any Muslim country, well, at least from my experience anyway, I've been to one, two, three, I've been to five different Muslim countries. Okay. The one thing that they all have in problem is that their Ramadan is geared is basically geared around the culture of the entire society. Whereas over here, we are kind of going against the grain in this society. You understand? Because the society here, they don't care about your Ramadan like that. You get me? Now people are starting to see Ramadan, and even you find videos of non-Muslims fasting, during Ramadan, and they're talking about, how they're starving and stuff like that. But again, fasting is not starvation. It is not. You are not going to die. You will be uncomfortable. This is how fasting works. Okay, if you're doing it properly. I'm not saying that I'm the only one doing it properly, but every year, okay, and this is true. Every year I lose weight in Ramadan. Every single year, without, because I'm actually looking at the Sunnah, and I'm pretty much practicing the way that the Prophet says something like how he advised. Right, so there's a Sunnah in eating, right? Like I mentioned in the beginning, you eat this light suhoor, right? And then you can eat your dinner. If you do that consistently, then the first 10 days will be the most difficult. Okay. After 7 days, you're gonna start getting used to that type of practice. Okay, but you're not gonna die. You're gonna be uncomfortable, right? You may get a headache. You may get gas pains. You may get thirsty. I was doing this even when I was working construction. Okay, I was fasting, and this is how I was doing it. Okay. The next 10 days, the second part of that 10 days, you're going to be completely acclimated, right, to that system if you're doing it. And you'll notice you're going to start eating less and less and less. That's what fasting does, right? You're going to start eating less and less and less. The last 10 days, you're going to be even sharper than you were before, right? You're going to be, because now your body is going into it's going more into a ketogenic state. You understand? So you're going to be eating less because your body doesn't need all that food for you to operate, and it's using its own energy stores. So your body wants to be in a state of homeostasis all the time. You get it? So there is a link between physicality and mental health and spiritual health, and you can't just look at it like there's three different things. You get me? They're not three different things. They are linked. Yes, you can be strong physically and not strong mentally. This is true? That this is a thing. However, what you will find is that people who are generally physically strong are mentally strong, right? That's what you will find. And people who are mentally strong are spiritually strong. They're all related. You feel me? And if you are physically and mentally strong, then you have the opportunity to increase your spiritual strength. And by the last 10 days, and there's so much hikmah, like why the Prophet says something in the last 10 days, he would increase his ibadah. Because if you've gone through the stages of fasting, the first stage, the second stage, by the third stage, you're going to have so much energy that you will be able to actually stay up later in the night and make your salah, and you'll be sharp. Your mind will be sharper. You know what I mean? You'll be able to remember the verses of Quran easier. You get me? Once you reach that, this is like the building of the taqwa. You get me? So that's pretty much some of the reasons why Black people they get stressed is because they're essentially what they're doing is they find themselves isolated because they don't have like Muslim families and whatnot. And really, it's better to be at the masjid. I know for the last 2 years, we've had COVID, right? Okay, I'll give you guys that, right? However, bringing your family and your children to the masjid, you know, is incredibly useful and important, you know, during the times of fasting. You understand? You know, however, staying during the night for tarawih, I like it for a sometimes thing because even the Prophet sallam, he did this sometimes, right? He didn't do what y'all doing, right? About coming all night long, right? In order to pray, you know, at the masjid or whatever whatnot together. Salaam Alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Thanks for joining us. What you got for us, bro?
Yeah, I just, I'm a revert. I just
Mhm.
converted like a month ago. And
Mashallah, mashallah.
yeah,
Congratulations. Mhm.
you know, I really, this Ramadan, I didn't feel like I was ready because I just started.
Mhm.
And
Well, really, that's how the Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet, peace be on, them, they started just like that, like you. And this is how we have to see our Islam. We have to see our Islam in the method of how it was brought to the Prophet, peace be on him, and his companions. You understand? A lot of people see them as like these ultra holy types and whatnot, but really they were people. They were people just like you and I, right? So they had families. The difference between them and us is that they had the best hearts, right? So, but essentially anything that they did, we can do, right? So really, Ramadan kind of came on them, right? And they fasted. You know, when Ramadan came, some of them weren't even Muslim that long, even, and they're still learning to make salah and these type of things. And we're talking about Arabs too, on top of that, right? So you're in great company, bro. You're in great company. So alhamdulillah, you know, don't worry about that, man. And again, like fasting is, you're not gonna die. You're not gonna starve. Come on, some people kind of hype it up, and it's just not gonna happen, right? Even in the summertime, when I was fasting in the summertime, I found it much easier just to make uh iftar, like the dinner, right, as opposed to waking up for the morning breakfast. I'll just eat once a day, and I was good for 1 month, just eating once a day. That's it. I didn't die, right? By the time the end of Ramadan came, I was eating less even because I got into that habit of eating once a day. Because to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to eat breakfast is a little bit difficult, right? So I just said, okay, I'll skip that and I'll just eat and for break my fast, and that's it. But alhamdulillah. Go ahead, bro.
yeah, that's good. I think I should just start slow and like, move up to it.
Hmm. Yeah, of course. I mean, like you just became Muslim. You start slow, right? You do what you can, right? Um, do what's easy for you, and believe me, like anybody who starts fasting, obviously the most difficult time is usually the beginning. But for me, because I'm used to fasting throughout the year. I'm like, okay, I know what to expect, right? And that pain, that discomfort that you go through, particularly in the beginning when you're fasting, is so beneficial. Like you can't express how beneficial it is, because what are you getting from that pain and that discomfort, that those hunger pains and being thirsty? What are you getting? First you're getting you're learning the art of self control. Okay, you're learning the art of discipline. You're suppressing your carnal desires and needs for the sake of Allah. You get it. You get so much benefit if you can control that, right? And if you can master that and have that as discipline. What about other things? Other things become so much easier. You'll have the discipline to study. You'll have the discipline to exercise, to read, all these type of things. You have the discipline to hold your tongue. That's really what fasting is about. Is about building what Allah says in the Quran is taqwa, or God consciousness. You understand? We withhold ourselves from food and water until the sun goes down, being conscious of God, right? If you can do something like that, then you can sit down, discipline yourself for like a half hour a day to read Quran, right? And this is another thing too. I'm not necessarily a big fan of saying people saying I'm going to read so many different pages of Quran. I rather that they say, okay, I'm going to dedicate between this time and this time to read Quran. How many pages I read? I read, because once you do that, you've established a habit. And if you can establish a habit, that's way more useful than making these lofty goals and not accomplishing them. Right? So go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I have fasted before. Like I have done days, even when I wasn't a Muslim, because I used to be an atheist. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I came into Islam on my own, like of my own
Mashallah.
knowledge. But
Okay.
when I wasn't a Muslim,
Mm-hmm.
there were days when I would fast, and
Mm-hmm.
it would like I did feel a little pain and discomfort, but it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
I think I think I can do it.
Eventually, if you fast over a prolonged length, like a month in Ramadan, eventually that whole thing, that discomfort, it goes away completely. You won't feel after the first between 7 to 10 days, you won't get any of those pains at all. Right? That's your body telling you that, oh, we're used to eating at this time, so your body's having a reaction to you not eating, and that's why you're getting that pain. Right?
Hmm.
You get me? Right?
Yep.
But once the body realizes that, okay, we're not getting our normal feeding time, it's just going to go into survival mode in a ketogenic state. And then that ketogenic state is so much more healthier for you than just picking up and eating whenever you want. You know what I mean? And it's a purification for your body as well. So if your body can be purified, then your mind can be purified. If your mind can be purified, your soul can be purified, right? So when you're fasting, it's more than just about not eating. It's about and not drinking. It's about not consuming the things that are damaging your mind and your soul as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Mm. Yeah. I'm also trying to learn the opening to Al Fatiha.
mm,
Yeah.
mashallah, mashallah, Allah reward you. I mean, Allah reward you. Make it easy for you. I mean, we're very happy to have you. Very welcome to Islam. And we have a good group of brothers here as well. So you're welcome anytime. If you ever need advice, give us a call. Leave a comment, whatever. We'll help you. We'll support you, whatever we can, inshallah.
Okay. Thank you.
Wa alaikum Allah. Wa alaikum Allah. Jazakallah khair. Okay, Ikhwan wa akhwat, I'm gonna close it out now, inshallah. I'd like to thank everybody for joining me. And like, subscribe, share. Hit me up on Patreon. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك واشهد ان لا اله الا انت واستغفرك واتوب اليك.